Yesterday, Facebook whistleblower Frances Haugen testified before a Senate panel and answered questions from lawmakers in response to her now viral 60 Minutes interview. Here she is in her opening statement.
My name is Frances Haugen. I used to work at Facebook. I joined Facebook because I think Facebook has the potential to bring out the best in us. But I'm here today because I believe Facebook's products harm children, stoke division, and weaken our democracy. The company's leadership knows how to make Facebook and Instagram safer, but won't make the necessary changes because they have put their astronomical profits before people. Congressional action is needed. They won't solve this crisis without your help.
Haugen discussed a number of issues, including how the platform reacted to January 6th, extremist content, privacy, and negative effects on mental health, especially the toll Instagram takes on young people, comparing the addiction of scrolling Instagram to smoking cigarettes.
Facebook CEO Mark Zuckerberg responded to the testimony, saying in part, "We care deeply about issues like safety, well-being, and mental health. It is difficult to see coverage that misrepresents our work and our motives." Team Rising is here to share their thoughts on the testimony and Zuckerberg's response. Editor-in-chief at The Real News and host of Working People podcast, Max Alvarez, as well as senior policy analyst at the Independent Women's Forum, Patrice Onwuka. Welcome to you both.
Thank you. Good morning.
And so, Max, what did you make about Zuckerberg's response? The only thing I was kind of remotely, sympathetic isn't the word, but found interesting was his argument that, hey, look, other companies don't even study the harmful effects of their products on consumers. At least we studied it. And what this is going to do is going to encourage us and other companies just not even ask the questions if it's just going to be leaked to make us look bad.
I mean, it's a hell of a hoop that Zuckerberg jumped through. I mean, like, I guess I'm just still kind of flabbergasted because it's like we should get credit for doing research on how harmful our products are, even though we hid that research from the public and kept doing the harmful things anyway. Like, great, I guess. Like, good for you. If it's going to be a disincentive for other companies to track like the destructive force that they have on the world, I think that there's kind of like a hierarchy of needs here, and there are a lot of other kind of pressing problems that Haugen's leak and testimonies kind of really put at the forefront. I mean, but I guess to bluntly answer your question, Ryan, I mean, I don't really believe anything that Zuckerberg kind of has to say. I mean, there are moments when I think Zuckerberg can be incredibly honest about what he thinks Facebook is and what its motivations really are. But all of this, you know, kind of we connect the world because we care. You know, we're trying to kind of improve the platform for the health of the public health and for the health of our democracy. I mean, that's all blatantly BS. Like that is because that is not Facebook's model. That is not the product that they've built. That's like, you know, telling me a chicken is a cow just because you want to like people to believe that it is, and it's clearly not. I think what everyone has kind of finally recognized after, you know, now decades in this sort of new media ecosystem, right, is that, you know, when we use platforms like Facebook, we have traditionally approached it as consumers, as users of a product, right, that is being presented to us, when the bare reality has always been that we are the product here, right? Facebook is not a service. It is a machine that is designed to extract as much data from its users as possible to make money on, to increase its domination of the market and control over the means of communication. And the way that it facilitates that process is to keep us engaged as much as possible, to keep us addicted. And what Haugen has testified, which I think a lot of us already knew, is that the way that you increase that engagement and thus keep that data coming, keep that control going, right, is to play into anger, fear, and conspiracy, right? Like all of the worst angels of our nature, they know very well what they're doing because they know that that increases engagement and it induces their profit model such that it is. So, you know, that's really the bare reality of what we're looking at.
Yeah. I was a little less blown away, I guess, by some of the, you know, supposed revelations. I thought we kind of already knew a lot of what Haugen was saying. I was also not not kind of motivated by the repeated references to big tobacco. I mean, smoking kills millions of people. We're talking about the harms of Instagram on young women. That it's raised suicidal feelings or feelings of depression among some small minority of users. That is, to me, nowhere near the harm level of like an addictive substance such as tobacco. Patrice, what's your take?
Well, you hit on the nail on the head. A lot of her testimony, the whistleblower's testimony, was meant to be an emotional appeal more than it was. It was certainly based on the information that she leaked, but it was dependent on emotion. What better emotion to evoke than to talk about teen girls and anorexia and some of their health issues? And I don't mean to diminish that issue. It's significant and it's serious. There are also other issues that, her allegations raise, her information raised around counterterrorism and the ability for Facebook to be able to track what's going on in its platform. But at the end of the day, I do think that we also have to put on our thinking caps and recognize that, number one, a private company, which Facebook is, even if it's publicly traded, its number one goal is not to be a public space for forum and dialogue as much as I would like for it to be. It is a private company and profit is its number one motive. Now, that doesn't mean that it can't be create the kind of space where we expect to have some free thought and where we expect to be able to engage without worried about teenagers being human trafficked and sold fentanyl online. There are some responsibilities that it has, but I also don't think that it is the evil, the most evil platform or the greatest evil in the world. I do think we also have to consider her background. What is her political view? What is her motivation? I would like to believe that it's entirely about saving teen girls, but I also think that she has certain partisan motivations. And when we look at her background, when we look at her political campaign donation history, we absolutely, and the fact that this was so really well coordinated and rolled out, I do think that she's pushing for a particular policy end goal in mind. Policies, she's trying to push for policy changes at Pinterest and other companies, and it's not surprising to me that she's also using this platform for her.
I don't know how important the policy end goal is. She's a libertarian, right? Isn't she? Is she politically a libertarian?
I believe she supported Democratic candidates in the past.
There's a lot of Democratic supporting libertarians. I thought I saw somewhere that she was a libertarian.
I don't know that she's a libertarian.
She has filed a bunch of suits with the SEC, and so for people who don't know, there's this whistleblower law that allows if you blow the whistle on a company and provide evidence to the SEC, and then the SEC fines that company, you get a very significant portion of that fine. I think that's a great law because it incentivizes people to out corporate misbehavior. But I don't think we have to go looking for policy motivations from Hogan. There are tens of millions of dollars that she could possibly see coming her way if the SEC reacts to her complaints by investigating Facebook, leveling a fine, and then she can claim.
Well, but I think it's more likely. I think what Patrice was saying, it's more likely that she, now she gets to be this kind of celebrity whistleblower person, and not the kind of whistleblower who's going to face jail time or charges or that kind of thing.
Yes, but there's also maybe hundreds of millions of dollars on the table.
Right.
That's not nothing.
The point, to me, it's not so much what she's going to get out of it from a financial standpoint. It's the fact that she's used willingly to push forward a specific agenda. Right now in Congress, both in the House and the Senate, we have a suite of packages related to antitrust, but also related to there's discussion about Section 230 reform.
Right.
Democrats and Republicans may be trying to change tech policy right now, but for very different ends. And it is not to create a space for conservatives and Trump supporters to be able to speak freely. And I think that's what I'm trying to get at with
her. And she's not interested in that either, because her concerns seem to lie in the direction of there's too much dangerous, reckless speech, and we need to police more of it.
But
can I jump in here real quick? Because I think that all of us in some way are demonstrating a true American hubris here, right? And Ryan, you touched on this in your radar the other day, right? there may be these kind of partisan political calculations. There probably are financial calculations here, but this is infinitely bigger than the kind of politics of DC or even the United States. Facebook's reach is in the billions, right? It's control over the means of communication. We're talking about the people's connection to one another, their ability to get paid on time, their ability to call their loved ones in countries around the world. Facebook may be a private company, but it has built itself up into a behemoth that has colonized one of the most essential infrastructures of our human existence. You cannot conflate those two things.
Well, but it providing
and
it in
I
a
think that
place
we're
where it
really
doesn't
losing the forest
exist.
from the
I mean,
trees here.
Can I just say, we literally saw Facebook go down for an entire day, along with Instagram and other platforms. Was anyone unable to reach their grandmother in Toledo?
Yes, no doubt.
Of course there were.
Without
how
a telephone?
depend
Come on
WhatsApp?
now. I think you're taking a bit overboard.
But you guys are trying to have it both ways. You're trying to say Facebook is so important and great on one hand, but then also say no, it's evil and bad and should be done away with by the government, right? That those things don't either. It's one or the other.
Nobody said great. It's like important.
Well, I think the fact that it provides people a way to right in other countries where there's less, where the internet is Facebook, it's providing a very important service. That's a good thing. It has been used for ill, and we've talked about that previously sometimes. But it's better to have it than not have it.
But yes, but Patrice, in a lot of countries around the world, people communicate via WhatsApp and only via WhatsApp. Like if WhatsApp goes down, they might have Messenger. But if both Messenger and WhatsApp are down, they can't communicate with their loved ones at that point. Like that is a real thing. It's not, yes, in Manhattan and New York and most of the United States, sure, people are going to be able to find other ways of communicating. But as Max is saying, like, this is a global situation. It has to be looked at globally. We don't want to get too stuck in the myopia here. But we don't want to talk about Hogan's motivations too much, because as Facebook's favorite conservative says, facts don't care about your feelings. And so what she lays out, it should be looked at on its own. And one of the things that I'm curious for Max's take on this, one of the things that she kind of confirmed relative to other reporting is that Facebook, when it tweaks its algorithm, it looks for the most toxic and aggressive content to up engagement. Zuckerberg responded to that and said, we would never do such a thing, because advertisers, want their advertisements to appear next to good content, not next to bad content. So therefore, we have every motivation, to make sure that people aren't, getting all nasty with each other. But in fact, like, we know that they did a study where they said, look, we're going to tweak the algorithm that will benefit good things in the world, and we'll tweak it to benefit bad things in the world. And we will study that, and we will see which one produces more engagement. And they even called them something as simple as good things in the world and bad things in the world. I forget the exact terminology, but it was that good and bad, black and white. And they found that the bad things created more engagement. And so Zuckerberg said, go with the bad things.
But they discovered what every media, and I'll let you talk, Max, but they discovered what every media company that has ever existed has discovered. Right. There's just nothing new about what Facebook is doing. The New York Times does this, cable news does this, your local newspaper does this. Right.
But that contradicts what Zuckerberg said yesterday.
Right, and I mean, I think that your point is well taken, Robbie. I mean, like, as a former kind of media scholar, like, if it bleeds, it leads has a very deep history, right, in our media system, right? So we can't, I think you're right that we can't pretend that is in any way a new phenomenon. What is a new phenomenon is that, that kind of bleeds, it leads, sort of playing into the sensationalism and the horror of society to sell newspapers and stuff like that. That was at least somewhat separate from the ways that people communicated with one another and associated with one another in kind of civil society. Now those two things have kind of been conflated through these social media platforms in really kind of complex ways. I think that kind of when I say that we should try to see the forest from the trees, in way of responding to your question, Ryan, I think that all of us, we're all kind of talking here on a media platform. I'm the editor-in-chief of the Real News Network. We know damn well, right, that our livelihoods and our ability to report on the important stories that we try to report on are really held hostage by those tweaks that you were talking about, by the black box decisions of these private companies that do, whether or not we want to kind of say it's their right as the private company, they still do have that power to tweak what people see and when and how and who gets shadow banned and who doesn't.
Yeah.
It's that power already exists, and so that's the real kind of issue that I think we need to keep our eyes trained on here.
We gotta leave it there. Thank you so much to both of you, Patrice and Max, for being with us.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Next on Rising, Brianna Joy Gray joins us to discuss the role celebrities are now playing in politics. Stay with us for that.